Before we begin, we have a favor to ask. If you like the Blocks, Paper, Scissors podcast, please help us spread the word. To do this, go to Apple Podcasts and rate and review the show. Another way is to tell a fellow art teacher. Either way, it helps others find the show. The Blocks, Paper, Scissors podcast has a lot of information regarding teaching art, not just for TAB teachers, but for anyone who is looking to further their understanding of children in a choice-based classroom. This show is about finding new ways to engage children and help them find their voice through visual arts.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Blocks, Paper, Scissors podcast. My name is Clark Freilich.
And I'm Clyde Gaw.
Today, I thought we'd sneak in a short episode to share what happened at the TAB Institute in Boston this year. I was excited to be asked to teach. It was a great learning experience.
Mass art.
For me, because I'd never been to the Institute. I wish I'd gone because I would have gotten an idea what happened. And
You just got thrown in the frying pan.
it was 12 hours, like, nonstop.
Every
Teaching
day.
Every day.
Every day.
And
Nonstop. And then I was really impressed. Not only were you teaching all day long, but in the evenings you were in the studio working with me and working with other students and teachers.
is that not a requirement?
Well, I mean, your job description was one thing, but I think you went above and beyond. You went beyond the call of duty,
Yeah.
and I appreciated it quite immensely.
Well, the theme of this year's institute was making artists, correct?
Yep, that's the theme that Ian Sands suggested, and I think that Kathy and Diane were very receptive, because that's a major. That's one of the major goals of TAB classroom and the TAB approach is to make artists.
Mm-hmm.
And so you think about the second curriculum goal, second curriculum statement of in TAB, the child is the artist. The question, what do artists do? And of course, the third part of that curriculum structure is the classroom is the studio. And so back to making artists, what kind of artists can we make in a TAB classroom? And I think the answer is all kinds.
Right. So many things in teaching for artistic behavior revolve around that idea of being an artist, thinking like an artist, solving problems like an artist, being creative. That it's just a natural fit for just a general idea of making artists.
Yes.
Coming into it new, not really knowing how busy and jam-packed, not just physically but mentally, dealing with all the really good conversations.
Yeah.
We had some really, really sharp people, at least from my point of view.
Oh, my goodness.
People who were taking the class.
Some of the folks in that class are master teachers and master artists, tremendous artists, and, veteran art teachers is Courtney and Mary Ellen, of course, Jean. Andy.
There's just, we had 80 people.
Oh, my goodness.
And
12 from international
I know.
Sites.
It was amazing. And to meet those people and to try to help them understand what it is that we do with teaching for artistic behavior.
The Tab Institute is it's a fascinating experience. If you're a newbie, it's a place to break in your sea legs. If you're an old veteran, an old timer, even like us, it's a place to build your confidence and to build your knowledge base in all kinds of areas.
Having taught this way for 17 years and been isolated here in Indiana, then to be around such dynamic people who have completely different ideas and thoughts on a lot of different things opened my eyes to new pathways of doing things. And then thinking about people in their specific situations and how specific things can get in situations.
Yes.
And not to be able to generalize some of the things that I do. Now I have to reapproach next year to make things a little more specific.
We had a wonderful time. It's like the Tab Institute, you have the build up. You have a wonderful online component that is structured through MassArt. And then when you get into the field work and the classroom work and the studio work of the Tab Institute experience, that week, it's 6 days of just nonstop, intensive immersion into studio and teaching practice. That's quite an experience. And we had you obviously brought a lot to the institute with your skill set and your experience. But who else killed me was, of course we have Ian.
Yeah.
Ian's,
our third roommate.
Our third roommate.
Which we never saw.
He was always busy doing something.
Man, you come in and you're tired and you're just out.
Yeah. And of
I
course,
did not hear him snore, but
I didn't either.
Rumor has it.
Well, I've got a snoring issue, and my roommate put up with me, which was you.
I put a pillow over your head.
But okay, so also in the mix, of course, is Julie Toole.
Amazing.
And Julie's.
She's got it down, I tell you.
Julie is the bomb.
She smoked it.
She is something else, and she is a wonderful teacher and just a tremendous humanitarian, and she's. I don't know what else.
She handled a heavy load this time. It seemed like.
Well, yeah, she had to. You were kind of like she was mentoring you to some degree, I think, with respect to, because you had 40 elementary teachers both of you were working with, right?
Right.
She was very kind and generous as always, and a tremendous resource. But our other addition to the Tab Institute, besides
Roni.
Kathy and Diane brought in Roni from Santa Fe, New Mexico. Roni Rohr. Roni is like, she's a dynamo, She's
like the ever-ready bunny. Just nonstop.
She brings a wealth of experience, and of course she's a national board certified art teacher, and she runs not just a K-12 classroom, but she also runs an art center in Santa Fe. So, and she's very well versed in Tab pedagogy. Roni, she left a huge impact on the Tab Institute. Both you and Roni really, last year was great. This year was even better. It was, I think,
that's
the best ever.
Excluding me, you always try to improve because I have a lot to improve.
You were like, you brought so much to the Institute.
I did bring something. We'll put it that way. it was. It definitely was a learning experience, and I've already started planning for next year if they have me back.
Yeah. All we have to do is make sure we get through get through the security agents, the TSA in the airport, to bring all of our stuff.
Your bag of tools and murder equipment went through a lot easier than my simple artwork that just had cardboard and a twisted wire, and that caused all kinds of consternation with the TSA agents.
I had a couple of saws, some screwdrivers, some
razor
wire.
blades, knives.
All those, of course, that all had to be checked. I think they were trying to figure out what the zip snips were. Those are great. The zip snips.
I know.
A lot of people were using them in the studio portion of Tab Institute.
I need to get mine back so my kids,
Oh yeah, I've got yours in my.
so my kids don't cut their fingers off.
The zip snips, and I have to thank Stacy Parrish. I have to thank Stacy Parrish for introducing me to zip snips. She gave me one as a gift last year, and Stacy Zellinger Parrish, and Stacy is doing tremendous outreach and advocacy in Southern Florida. In fact, she started a forum for South Florida Tab teachers and Central Florida Tab teachers.
Drink the Kool-Aid, so to speak. And then, because it's that type of pedagogy, it's that, once you get it, then you realize how powerful it is for students and children in general when they take ownership of their learning and you become a partner in that. It's really powerful, and everyone wants to share it. They get up on their pedestal and preach.
Absolutely. When you see the impact it has on all children in your classroom, there's one thing to say you can personalize learning, but it's another when it's personal.
True.
When learning is personal.
We'll put that on a T-shirt.
A lot of people say, we personalize learning when the child has.
It's trademarked. I'm going to trademark that.
I mean, I could personalize your learning and give you a choice of one of 4 or 5 strands, curriculum strands, to go down, and I control each strand you go down. That's personalized learning. On the other hand, if you're the one who is setting up the learning goals and the methods, the materials, assessments, the content, then it's personal.
Yep.
And the schedule, the time, it's personal.
It's like that graphic I use when I talk about creativity, where you have a starting point, and then you have this massive rhizomish drawing, and then it comes out the other end.
Uh-huh.
There's no singular path that you can go. You could take any direction you want to go, and as long as you end up with your idea on the other side, creativity's a mess.
Creativity is a powerful realm to experience education through, instead of just knowledge acquisition of facts, which a lot of K-12 ed gets. It should be, K-12 ed should be transformational of the self. It should be transactional. It should be knowledge creation and not just remembering facts that can be regurgitated on a test at the end of the year or at the end of the semester.
Yeah, so thinking about the Institute, getting back to that, what were some of your highlights? I got a couple highlights that I want to hit on, but some things that we tried this year that were new that I thought worked really well was the affinity groups.
Yes, affinity groups. That was Julie's brainchild.
Yeah.
That was a wonderful addition to the experience of that is Tab Institute. Affinity groups are awesome.
So we had, just people would choose a topic and want to do lunch. So we increased lunch to an hour and a half.
Uh-huh.
In order to get people together and figure out where they're going to go for lunch and then go and talk.
You're having face-to-face conversations on topics that are near and dear to your heart.
Well, it's the whole TAB philosophy. It's like, I want to choose my learning. I want to learn about, I don't know, what was the one you were in? Trauma?
We were in trauma-informed education.
Trauma-informed education. And so that's your path. And like a true TAB teacher, we're offering that as a, fluid way of learning about that type of thing.
There was about 15, 16 teachers in that group, very interested in that topic.
The cool thing about affinity groups is they are so fluid. We can't plan for what people are going to be interested in today or even tomorrow or even next year or on down the road. So it's an open book, and people just write down what they're interested in. And one was PYP and IB, and another one was, I think, did the international group get together maybe?
I think so.
So just really random topics, but people would get together and discuss it. And, that's someplace we probably should investigate further down the road. How we can, I'm sure we'll have them next year and the year after that, and because I think it falls naturally and folds naturally into TAB.
Absolutely. Some other highlights. Naturally, Diane's always tweaking, and it's important to get from Diane's perspective. I know she always looks forward to reading the feedback documents that teachers provide her, because that's how the TAB Institute has evolved over the years with, the feedback that participants share with Diane and Kathy and the rest of us. I think the studio itself is a big highlight for a lot of people. And I get the biggest thrill from just being in there when it's really busy. I think one of my highlights was seeing centers presentations and the materials demonstrations by, we had about roughly 20 art teachers throughout the week. We're doing demonstrations 4 times a day.
Yeah.
And they were like packed. Each one was packed.
Yeah. Well, we had to split them because there's so many. So we ran 2 simultaneously and then swapped, right?
Yep.
That's
a couple
another,
times we did that.
We're learning on the go and changing things as needed.
Yeah, materials and methods demonstrations. The
attachment test is always really popular.
Diane gets a crowd.
Same thing with Kathy's printmaking.
Yes, when Kathy does her silkscreen printmaking, that's always well attended.
Just 2 really, really very well attended. Maybe we'll have air conditioning next year.
The last day that we were in the studios, some
engineers came in.
Yeah, we're gonna.
It's a little hot in here.
Yeah,
it's all right. We're just artists. We all smell.
The scent, the faint scent of body odor was. No, it wasn't that bad. We had fans blowing on us. Well,
I know you're blowing all that onto me.
For me, it was. Well, maybe there was.
I was worried about you not getting food.
Oh, Kathy and Diane feed me. I'm kind of like a.
And Ann, shout out to
Ann Banning.
Just,
Ann Banning is, she's like big sister. She keeps an eye on us. Christine.
Man, Christine
is something
Phillips.
Else. Oh my goodness.
Shout out to Christine.
She's tremendous. She's like the glue that keeps it together. It's a complex thing, the TAB Institute. We're not going to reveal all the secrets.
No, because you have to go to experience. You can't just sit back and say, "Oh, I know that stuff." No, you have to go and save up your pennies to go. It's worth it.
Yes.
I don't think anyone's ever said this wasn't worth the money.
For one thing, Mass Art is it's one of the foremost art schools in the world. And then, of course, it's situated, in Boston, and it's right across the street from the Gardner Museum and the Boston Museum of Fine Arts, and it's in the neighborhood of Fenway in Boston.
Harvard Medical School.
Harvard Medical School's right across the street.
And let us not forget Penguin Pizza, because I never had any Penguin Pizza.
It's really good pizza.
I never went.
It's really good pizza.
It was like, I got 10 minutes. Where am I going to go eat? So I just grabbed something at the cafeteria or something. I'm going to have to do a better job of planning my time next year.
I think Diane and Kathy like your work.
Yeah, I hope so.
You and I were talking about, your ideas for what you're going to do next year inside your classroom component.
Still working on it. Not ready for a big reveal yet.
I like your ideas.
I never would have gotten that unless I went through the institute, because I was learning both as a student and as a teacher.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I woke up Friday morning.
You were fried.
To put lotion on my face and put toothpaste on my face.
Your eyes were bloodshot. I thought maybe, but it was just because your eyes are red. They were bloodshot because you were just tired.
Yeah, I think my contacts were starting to bother me too. I don't know.
But no,
it's all good, right?
You were just very busy the whole time.
I was. I didn't realize how busy I would be, and I'm sure the students were as busy, if not busier, than I was.
Yeah.
Trying to carve out that quiet time. I'm used to kicking back for a while, and there was no kicking back.
Yeah.
Unless I was asleep.
The only time that we really were able to have any kind of enjoyment, which is fine with me because I love being in the institute and working, was Friday night when we had one infinity group, was the Mike's Bakery infinity group. So we go.
It was like 30.
We had 30 people. They made the trek via the T, the subway, over to Mike's Pastries in Little Italy.
Sorry, I didn't
on the
do
north
the
end. I know you and Julie Toole took the fancy schmancy transportation.
Was it Jill? I think. Oh, Jill. I rode with Jill and Cole, I think. So, but it was good conversation, great time. The cannolis were good. I didn't eat mine until Friday morning. It was a good cannoli. It was chocolate cream filled, I think.
Yeah.
And then we went and had a good Italian meal, and then went out and had more talking about stuff.
Anne Marie told me that there's a better Italian pastry shop, Italian bakery than Mike's that we didn't get a chance to go to.
Doesn't have the hype.
Yeah, it's not.
Some people think Mike's is overhyped. I don't know. I had nothing to compare it with. Dunkin' Donuts.
I just, that's an annual trek that I like to make, is go visit Mike's Pastries, and we had a little adventure at the end. Some people ate their pastries and did some sightseeing and
sketchbooking.
Sketching. Gene and Andy have this thing called, hashtag art teachers in bars.
Right. So if you're an art teacher and you're ever out sketching, hashtag it art teachers.
Art teachers in bars.
Art teachers in bars.
It's kind of like being Toulouse-Lautrec.
Yeah.
And it's really wild because they were drawing after we went to get our cannolis at Mike's. We went to a pizza shop, and Gene and Andy and their crew were sketching out on the street outside the restaurant, and they attracted a crowd of onlookers, and so it was really fascinating.
Should have thrown a bucket down and collected.
I know they should. They should have put like a little basket out in front of them, throw dollar bills at them or coins.
Well, yeah, we ended up going to a place called Dirty Nelly's.
What goes on at Dirty Nelly's?
It was an Irish pub. It was small. You walk in and there's an upstairs too, and it was just a nice cozy little place, and to have a conversation about Tab, and we just carried on those conversations. There was live music upstairs, but it wasn't like loud rock. It was just a guy on a guitar, just playing away. I didn't even know what he played. I was too engrossed in the conversation.
Okay, were you with us when right after we got our cannoli at Mike's Pastries. Andy Redout says, you guys, let's just go eat our pastries over at the park next to Paul Revere's house. So we went to the park, and Ian Sands is with us, and Jean Freer Barnett, and the rest of our crew. So we're eating pastries, and all of a sudden this guy breaks out in with the Barber from Seville opera. What's an opera? What's it called? When you sing like the main. And anyway, this.
You're asking the wrong person. Okay.
An aria.
I have to rock out in order to calm myself down. So.
He was doing an aria from the Barber from Seville. I'm like, I can't believe, this is like just a wonderful moment.
Was he a street performer?
He could have been. But I was thinking, this is one of those wonderful moments, unplanned moments. So anyway, Ian was taking photographs of that moment. It was really wild. So we captured that moment, and I thought that was kind of one of our wonderful surprises of the Institute.
One of the biggest things for me was the teacher show, the pop-up show.
Yeah.
Having worked all week and seen how hard these teachers worked, and then to put that show up in a really short period of time.
Yeah.
And just to sit back and watch it, it was just amazing. And just to see what these teachers were putting together. Really powerful works.
Yes. We have to thank
Gina Mudge.
Yeah. For her help in putting that show together.
Right.
Gina was tremendous. She corralled us and got us organized for the setup, because that's a difficult thing to do.
Yeah. And Diane helped a lot. Just said, okay, I need 6 people to do this, and the rest of you're all worker bees. Seriously, we would never have gotten anything done because everyone was trying to put their artwork in where they wanted it to go.
Yep. Gina was tremendous.
Yeah, it was great.
We appreciate her.
J-Bar got the light working.
J-Bar
apparently hadn't worked for 2-3 years. He's up there messing with it, and look, it works. We had to light the mural that Roni did.
We have a tremendous story about J-Bar. His final artwork.
The shoe
was like a working man's sculpture, because J-Bar is a working man. He's a working man's artist. And his sculpture was like, we were like, I was in the studio with J-Bar, and he's trying to beat the deadline. We're under the clock. And
he got it done, man. He pulled it through.
Oh my gosh, that was so compelling. And I was and J-Bar and I were having conversation throughout, and it just occurred to me, you have to fight for your vision. You have to fight for your art. And that was one of those moments. He was fighting the clock to get this monumental sculpture ready, and it was like, J-Bar's sculpture was like so compelling. I just remember it.
So many, I'll put pictures in the notes.
J-Bar.
Yeah.
I'll always remember his work.
Another highlight, which always seems to be now a highlight and forever you're going to have to prepare, is Saturday morning's sermon with Clyde. It's awesome. You had that people were on the edges of their seats. And it's a good thing that Diane recorded it. Although I tried listening to it, I couldn't listen to it, but she's got a recording of it.
Yeah, it's, getting back to, the heart and soul of TAB, problem posing, learning theory, knowledge acquisition, knowledge building. the laboratory of learning that is the TAB classroom. That's what that talk was about. And complicated conversations.
Hopefully I'll put a link in the story notes so we can get to it. We don't have time for you to talk about it now because it's really intense and outside the realm of this podcast. What else? Anything else?
Looking ahead, we start school in very soon.
2 weeks.
Your room looks pretty cool so far. You've got
I haven't even started. I just dumped a bunch of stuff in there.
I snuck a couple photographs of you just now.
All my toys. No, I wash those. Those are for every year I do a fundraiser called Recycled Pets where people donate all their unwanted stuffed plush toys.
Oh.
And so
I took a photograph of you with all the plush toys.
Oh, that's maybe 5%.
Whoa.
My cabinet's full of them. So I turn around and sell them to the kids for $1 or $2 a piece. And
Neat.
Then we donate that money to a local animal shelter. So we average about $500 a year.
That's nice. What a tremendous contribution.
So those are the animals that we're drawing. We wash them to make sure that they're not that they're clean and fresh for the kids.
You think about animals. Who advocates for animals? They don't really have a voice in human society, unless you're an empathic animal advocate, animal rights advocate.
Yeah. So, I want to talk real quick about the classic Tab T-shirt campaign.
Nice.
So we started a campaign. They're only available for 3 weeks. Orders are only being taken for 3 weeks. Once the orders are done, then we'll print them up and ship them out.
Because that takes a lot out of you. You help coordinate that, and it's just time that you donate so other folks can have a Tab T-shirt.
Yeah, classic Tab. But I'll put a link to the campaign in the notes as well. I want to thank Kathy Douglas for putting up with us that Friday and Saturday.
Kathy is tremendous, and she, of course we wouldn't be here without Kathy.
Right. She's just a big-hearted, wonderful person.
She has a big, big heart. And we spent time with her niece Carol, and her husband Mike.
Mike, yeah.
And we had they took us to Plymouth Beach, and we had
lobster
rolls. Lobster.
And I'd never eaten lobster roll before, and it was good. It was really good.
If you're in Massachusetts, you got to go to Plymouth.
Got to have lobster.
Massachusetts is always a good time.
Yeah.
Birthplace of the Revolution. And lots of different revolutions have begun in Massachusetts, Tab being one of them. Glad we could be a part of it.
It's great. Look forward to next year, and look forward to our next podcast.
Yeah.
Which we will be discussing risk-taking or collaboration.
Plus, I think we should interview somebody too.
Who are we going to interview?
Fun.
Ronnie? Julie?
Ian. We need to interview one of those folks. Maybe we could have like a rolling interview. Are you doing any animal research in Florida, or any biological research?
We went to. No.
Botanical research?
We went and saw some gators.
In Florida?
Yeah. It's gators and snakes and birds and crabs.
Crabs.
The ghost crab. They're all over the beach.
Have you ever been bitten by a no-see-um
No.
in Florida? You know what a no-see-um is?
No, I have no
They're
idea.
these damn little bugs. You can't see them, so they're just called no-see-ums.
Never getting bit by it. You seem to get bit by a lot of things. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this podcast. We appreciate all that you do and all that you've done, your comments, your likes. Thank you so much.
It's all good.
We'll see you later.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all for listening to this episode of Blocks, Paper, Scissors. Special thank you to an amazing band, the East Hills, for allowing us to use their music for the show.
Are you gonna leave? Are you telling lies? You about have to be. All your life you done what you're told, and now you know it's time. You gotta let it go.
What we do is if we need that extra push over the cliff, you know what we do?
Put it up to 11.
11, exactly. One louder.
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.